Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Today I'm going to be talking about tabletop role-playing games and price point. So I really love the tabletop role-playing game community, and I'm always trying to learn more about it and trying to find ways that we can make the tabletop role-playing game community more effectively inclusive, more effectively sharing the game, and more effectively growing that community, right? The numbers should be going up all the time, right? We should have more players, more games, more options, all of that. You know, bigger is better, right? So, and I've found that I think one of the best ways to understand the Dungeons & Dragons community is to study other communities that are similar, right? And so when I look at other communities, I see cautionary tales, or I see tales where like, oh man, we should be approaching what we do like that, right? So one of them, and sometimes I see a community, I'm like, what can we learn for Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop role-playing games from this community? And so one of the communities that I'm absolutely diving into like a pool is sneakerhead community, the sneakerhead community. People who buy high-end sneakers to make a statement, to add to their collections, to sometimes wear. It's really not about wearing them a lot, I don't think. But that community is really fascinating to me, and so I've been learning more and more about it. And so yesterday was day one of bicycle season, and I was out in Philadelphia. I did a whole bunch of miles in Philadelphia, just going all around the city. I went from University City over to the Mutter Museum, and then I went from the Mutter Museum to Ubick. And Ubick is a special shop in Philadelphia that sells post-retail customized shoes. They don't even sell shoes regular, right? They really sell customized post-retail shoes. That's their specialization. They may sell a few pairs here and there when they come in, but it's generally that's not their business. Their business is post-retail sneaker customization, which is pretty crazy, right? Like mahogany wood on the walls. Like, this place is super pimp, right? It's really, really nice, and very high end, right? And this is an FLGS for sneakerhead community, a friendly local game shop, right? It's their equivalent, right? But again, like one of the things is the money. So what I was really thinking about when I saw Ubick, and one of the other aspects that I've been looking at, is this show called Sneaker Shopping on YouTube. The host is Joe LaPuma. It's put out by Complex. And I think the D&D and the TRPG communities should be paying hyper close attention to this television show, because what they're doing is something truly unique for their culture, right? Joe LaPuma brings in a celebrity, and they go sneaker shopping, and it's incredible because you learn about the celebrity, you learn about the shop, you learn about the host, you learn about the product, right? You learn about the people who sell the product, right? I so wish we had TRPG shopping. Like, this would be the best show in the world for the TRPG community, right? It's really good, but it would be very hard to do for us, and one of the reasons why is price point, right? So there is a ton of money in sneakers, just billions of dollars, right? At least hundreds of millions. I think it is well over $1 billion industry every single year. But in TRPGs, there's not a lot of money in TRPGs, right? So I was really thinking about, let me get all the way to the point here. I appreciate your patience. So basically, in the show Sneaker Shopping, where Joe LaPuma takes a celebrity sneaker shopping, they never said this in the show. They never said, oh, there's a cap. You can't spend more than X, right? But all of the celebrities stop at about $3,200, $3,500. Almost no one goes over $4,000. I saw it maybe once or twice on the show, but there's a cap, right? Like, and it's very clear, like, that all of these celebrities who walk in the door could definitely blow more than $3,000 on sneakers, right? But they don't, right? And I think there was an arbitrary limit where, behind the scenes, sneaker shopping is saying to the celebrities, don't pay more than $3,000. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? But it really made me think about price point in tabletop role-playing games and what that means for our industry and for our communities and for our hobby, right? Well, with sneakers, right, the price point for a really dope pair of sneakers is $150 to about $850. There's certainly, you can get a deal here and there and go a little lower, and you could certainly pay more, but the vast majority of sneakers are really in that, I would say, $200 to $800 bracket, right? Like, that's the shoes that people care about, $200 to $800, right? So that's the range. Now, what is the range for tabletop role-playing games? Well, that is fascinating. If you look at the range for tabletop role-playing games, the real core range where most of the products that we care about live at is between $0. There are a ton of amazing, awesome, wonderful games that cost $0, right? Just off the top of my head, Lady Blackbird and Ghost Lines and Lasers and Feelings and the Conan Quick Start and the Index Card RPG Quick Start, the new Modifius Star Trek Adventures Quick Start. A lot of these games, like, you could play them for a long time just out of the Quick Starts, right? And there are free games. There are hundreds of free games available, and many of them are incredible, are really, really powerful and awesome. And you could even run long campaigns with some of them. There's even a free version of Dungeons and Dragons, right? And that's incredible, because that does not exist in the sneakerhead community. There is no $0 awesome sneakers, right? There just isn't, right? And so that's something really unique about our community. And I think it might be it is a double-edged sword, man. It is a blessing and it is a curse, right? So, it cuts both ways. It cuts, it cuts the creator sometimes, and it cuts the player sometimes, the free games. It's something that we really need to wrestle with in our community. Like, what do we do with a $0 price point game? And then there are many games that cost $60. So $60 is the is the price point for a good, solid tabletop role-playing game that is in hardback, right? And then I would say about $20, $25 is shaking out to be the primary price point on PDFs, right? So one of the things that's great about this is it makes our community much more open to the number of people who can participate in it, because the price point to be a tabletop role-playing connoisseur, or even a pretty serious TRPG player, is pretty darn low, actually. If you just buy core rulebooks, you can get a great collection of books for $300. The price of one decent pair of sneakers, you could have a really nice, serious collection, right? And have hundreds of hours of play in 3 or 4, even 5 different worlds, maybe up to 10 different worlds to play in. Like, you could be playing for 3 years you could play tabletop role-playing games for 3 years off of what you got for one price of good sneakers, of dope, super nice sneakerhead quality that people would be excited about in the sneakerhead community. And that's it's really awesome, and I think we really need to think about that, right? I think the other thing that we need to think about is, because of that price point, people need to really think twice about going into like, anybody who says, I'm going to do tabletop role-playing games professionally, one, you need to realize you're going to be doing it part-time, and in addition to your regular job, for 5, 10, 15 years minimum. I think everybody who's made it did it that way, right? Especially today. Maybe there was exceptions back in the day, but nowadays you're going to have to spend 5, 10, 15 years doing it professionally, part-time, and then you have to go into, and then you have to shift into being a full-time professional, and that is a terribly challenging jump, right? So I think we really need to think as players, what does that price point mean? And also, as TRPG designers, if anybody thinks they're going to make real money going into TRPGs, they really need to think twice. And I know what everybody's going to say. What about Matt Colville? He made $2 million, right? Well, I'll tell you right now, Matt Colville did not make $2 million on Stronghold and Streamings because it's a tabletop role-playing game, or that he cares about tabletop role-playing games. The reason Stronghold and Streamings made $2 million is Matt Colville comes from video games. And video games are a balm, a B-A-L-M. You can just rub them on whatever you want, and they're going to make a lot of money, right? Like, so that's how that, you know, so Strong Streams made $2 million because it's a tabletop role-playing game. It made $2 million because it's a tabletop role-playing game that was lathered in video game love. Yeah, that's the only reason that game made as much as it did, in my opinion. And so, you know, so I don't think that's everything I want to say about price point for tabletop role-playing games, but it's been bouncing around in my head a bit. And I think we need to think more about, as game masters, as designers, as players, what does it mean that our price range is $0 to $60? It's really unique to our community. Also, I think one of the reasons why we have so many awesome $0 role-playing games is they're just so fun to make. And that's not the case with anything else, like almost anything else. It is not super fun to make sneakers, right? Like, you know, there's a bad word that is connected to sneaker production that people are being very careful to avoid, you know, now. It's not super fun to make sneakers, but it is super fun to make tabletop role-playing games. So, like, you know, I always see these tabletop role-playing game designers hemming and hawing about how much they should get paid. Well, you have the funnest job in the world. How much how much should you really be paid to go to, like, if somebody's like, oh, I want to make it my job to go to amusement parks and ride roller coasters, I hope you make sure you pay me $50 an hour for that. I'm like, keep wishing, right? So, just some thoughts on price point tabletop role-playing games. Have a good one. Take care.